Hey everybody, it's Janice with Creating Through Chaos, and today we're going to make 3 Dollar Tree pumpkins. The first one is a palette pumpkin. I'm going to take 3 of these Dollar Tree palettes and pull those stickers off. Then I'm going to paint these all with the color Light Buttermilk, and it's in a Deco Art Americana paint. And I'm just going to make sure that I get these fully painted. I did the insides, the back, and the sides, also the front, because I want this to look good from both sides. So I'm going to put a nice coat of paint on all of them. Once I have them all painted, I'm going to take some antique wax and I'm going to age these a little bit. I'm going to go around the edges first and then around the centers, just kind of lightly adding that antique wax on. And you can use a baby wipe to kind of wipe off any excess if you want them lighter or darker. Now I'm going to glue all 3 of them together. So I did one on each side and then one in the center with a little bit of a space between the behind ones. I'm just going to use my hot glue and attach those all together. So once I have those all glued, I am going to take a small stick and use that as a stem. So I'm going to glue that to the top. Then I'm going to take some Spanish moss and I'm going to add that around that stem. So just kind of put it around in the circle and glue that on. And then once I have that on, it's all kind of wiry and goes every which direction. So I just kind of gave it a little bit of a trim. And just take a pair of scissors, cut off some of that excess and make it so it looks a little more uniform. Then I took a piece of stamped muslin. So I just took muslin fabric and stamped out the word fall. I'm going to glue that right underneath that Spanish moss. Then I made this messy bow just using some fall fabrics and some Excelsior. And I'm just going to put that right in front of that stem, right above the little fall tag. And then I had this chipboard leaf that I found at Dollar Tree. I did nothing to it. It was the color I wanted, so I just took that and put a little bit of hot glue on it. And I'm going to glue that right to the bottom there on that center palette. And then finally, I added a little yellow button to the center of that messy bow, and that is it. This project is finished. I think this one turned out so super cute. I love the little palettes at Dollar Tree. You can make so many different things with these. And how stinking cute is that, and how easy was that to make? The next one we're going to do is a crate pumpkin. I'm going to use 2 of the Dollar Tree crates. On one of the crates, I am going to use some Gorilla Wood Glue. I'm going to go around the whole edge of this crate with that. And then on the other crate, I'm going to do a row of hot glue. And I would normally do just the wood glue and then push them together and clamp them so that they would dry overnight. But for the sake of the project, I used the hot glue because it just made it go faster and I could continue on with my video. So once that was dry and held, I'm going to take that and I'm going to paint it with the color Burnt Orange. And I painted the whole entire thing. Again, I do all sides of the project, especially when you're doing a pumpkin, because you want it to look good from the front and the back. So once I have that all painted, while that is drying, I'm going to take this little Farm Fresh sign. And I don't remember where I got this from. It could have been Joann's. It could have been Dollar Tree a long time ago. I'm just going to paint that with the color Antique White. Then I took these 2 snowmen that were glued upside down on each other, so they were glued by their hats, and I'm just going to stain those, and I'm going to use them as a stem. And mine came in a package like that. They were defective. Once I had that all stained, I'm going to stain over my little Farm Fresh sign, and again, just using my baby wipe to spread it and to also pull back some of the stain so it's not as dark as it was when I first put it on. I'm also going to use some of that antique wax in each one of the lines in the crates. Again, using a baby wipe to kind of spread it through the whole entire pumpkin. Once I had that all finished, I'm going to take that Farm Fresh sign, I'm going to glue that to the front. Going all around the edges, and then I'm going to glue that right to the center in the front. Then I'm going to take some paper, they're called brads. I'm just going to cut off the little part on the back And I'm going to glue those to each corner of this Farm Fresh sign. And these were gold. So once I have them all on, I'm going to take my antique wax and go over them to kind of tone down the gold color a little bit. You could use regular tacks, whatever you have, just cut off the pointy part. And now that they're all on, like I said, I'm going to age them a little bit because they were a little bright for what I was going for here. So I'm just taking my paintbrush and dabbing some of that antique wax on. Once I have those all darkened up, I'm going to take that stem, glue that to the center at the top of the crates. Then I'm going to add some Spanish moss around that. So just put some glue down, add that Spanish moss. And again, trim it if needed. Once I have that all trimmed up, I took 2 pieces of fall fabric that I liked and I ripped it into strips and I just tied a knot in the center. Once I did that, I'm just going to glue that right underneath the stem here. I just took some colors of fabric that I really liked, fall looking fabric. I also made a raffia bow, but I'm not going to put that on yet. I'm going to use this burlap leaf that I got off of some pick that I had a long time ago. I'm going to glue that in next to the stem and behind that strips of fabric. I'm just using the end of my paintbrush to hold that in. Now I'm going to add that raffia bow right to the center on that knot of the fabric. And then finally, I'm going to add this pretty little fall flower that I got at Hobby Lobby, I believe. And it had like a self-adhesive back. And I'm just going to glue that on. I'm not going to use the self-adhesive part. So I'm just going to glue that right to the center of that raffia bow. And that is it. This project is finished. I think this turned out so super cute and I absolutely love it. I think I'm going to make another one and change things up a little bit. I absolutely love how it turned out. For the next project, I'm going to use one of the mini pumpkin stacks from Dollar Tree. I'm going to take that top pumpkin, the little one, and I'm going to draw a star. And I did kind of a primitive style star. This pumpkin stack is going to have kind of a primitive vibe to it. Once I had that all drawn out, and you can see that I'm going over each line several times. I want to make sure it's nice and dark so I can see it. So once I had that all drawn out, I'm going to take an X-Acto knife and I'm just going to cut that star out. And it helps if you heat up your X-Acto knife with a lighter or a candle. You can have a candle next to you and just keep putting it over the candle and let that heat up and it goes through the plastic a lot easy. Not that this was hard to cut because it really wasn't. It went pretty smoothly. And I'm just kind of following around on the lines. Careful not to cut yourself. And get that star cut out without cutting any other part of the pumpkin. So once I had that all cut out, I did the same thing on the bottom pumpkin, just obviously made my star a little bit bigger because the bottom pumpkin is bigger. Once I had that all done, I'm going to take some black paint and I'm just going to sponge paint. I used a sponge dauber to dab that paint on. It took 2 coats. I did this coat, then I let it thoroughly dry, and then I did a second coat. So just kind of going over the whole entire thing until you get the whole thing all covered. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the middle pumpkin. And I think it would be fun too if you could spray paint the inside. You could use spray paint on these too. I just prefer the look of the acrylic paint, and that's what I'm using. But if you could paint the inside of these like gold, I think that would be really, really pretty too. So I'm just, again, dabbing this middle pumpkin. I only did 1 coat on the middle one because we're going to cover that up. So 2 coats on the bottom, 1 coat on the middle. And then the top pumpkin I did in the color light buttermilk. And again, just using a pouncer to do the same thing. And also, I think this top part took 2 coats as well. It may have taken 3 because it's a lighter color, so it didn't cover the orange as well. So I made sure that I did that. Once I had those all painted, I'm going to take some black paint and paint that little stem on the top pumpkin. So just give it a coat of that black paint. I kind of wanted everything to be cohesive. So once that was all painted, I'm just going to set that aside. And I took some strips of fabric and I just kind of ripped them down to size. And I did ones that had a fall color to it, but also had that black in it to kind of tie everything together. And I didn't measure. I just kind of laid them on the pumpkin, decided where to cut them, and then cut them. And I do end up trimming them down because they were a little big. And I did them about an inch or so wide. And I'm just going to take some Mod Podge and I'm going to run that on all the ridges on the middle pumpkin. So this is the one that we did not cut the star in. And I'm just going to Mod Podge those all the way around. And I'm just making sure that I get in the little grooves of the pumpkin really, really well and in the bottom here. So I just hit the bottom and then I'm just going to kind of let that drape into the center because I'm going to cut all of that after. So I'm doing this right under the ring on that middle pumpkin. I don't want to go over that because that's where the pumpkin pushes in. So once I have that all done, I'm on my last strip here. And I just did that process all the way around. It may look like it take a long time, but it didn't. It went really, really quick, and this is my last strip. I'm just making sure I put a lot of Mod Podge on so that these don't peel off or peel back, and this is why I painted this pumpkin. I know I'm covering it, but it helps in case I didn't get in the center of one of them, and you can see that orange poking through. I didn't want that. So I wanted the black to poke through if anything was going to poke through if I misguided one of my strips. So again, just doing that bottom piece. I let that fully dry. And then I'm going to come in and just trim off that excess all the way around that edge and the inside. And I want to make it so it's as clean as possible so I can pop that on the pumpkin. So I'm just going to start stacking them again once I had those all trimmed up. I'm going to add that to the bottom one. It was a little hard with the fabric to kind of get it to push back in, but it did. And then I'm going to put that top one on. Once I have them all on there, I took additional strips of fabric and I did these ones a lot smaller so they were really thin, like a ½ inch. And I'm just going to run those around the parts of the pumpkin where they snap together. So I just pulled it in, kind of pulled it real tight, and then glued it into place just using my hot glue gun. So just a little dab, then pulling it over and kind of pushing it in. And I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom one. So again, just pushing it in there and then adding my hot glue. And I kind of cut these almost perfectly to size so I didn't have to trim so close. And then I just kind of let it, whatever was left over on the edges, overlap each other and glue them on. So once I had that all done, I took some raffia and made a cute little bow. And I'm just going to glue that right underneath the stem here. Once I have that all on, I've decided that I wanted this to light up. So I'm going to take some of these twinkle lights and I'm just going to kind of push them up inside, making sure I get all the way into that top pumpkin. And this is why I said it would be great if like the inside was gold, because when it lit up, it would show the gold, and I think that would be super pretty. So once I had those lights all in there, I'm just going to kind of set it on top of the light box. You can also glue that inside to the inside of the bottom pumpkin. And there it is. And there it is all lit up. I think this turned out so super cute and I absolutely love it. I hope you enjoyed all 3 of these Dollar Tree pumpkins. Thank you so much for watching and don't forget to like and subscribe.